Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajik Acharya. Stotar Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samavita Bhaktivinoda ki, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Krishna, welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam discussion class today. Reading from the 9th canto, 23rd chapter. We'll be reading text 22 through 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, this is the section here. That's interesting because Namaruchi mentioned there was a section missing. It's very strange, huh? 30 pages. Yeah, I can get it. 30 pages are missing. That's quite strange. Okay. So, chapter 23. Starting with text 22, I'll read. Text 22. Chapter 23 is entitled The Dynasties of the Sons of Yayati. Dharmastu Haihaya Suto Netra Kunte Pita Tata Sohanjir Apavat Kunter Mahishman Bhadrasenaka. Translation: the son of Haihaya was Dharma, and the son of Dharma was Netra, the father of Kunti. From Kunti came a son named Sohanji, and Sohanji came Mahishman, and from Mahishman Bhadrasena. Durmado Bhadrasenasya Danaka Kritaviryasu Kritagni Kritavarmacha Kritoja Danakatmaja. The sons of Bhadrasena were known as Durmada and Dhanaka. Dhanaka was the father of Kritavirya and also of Kritagni, Kritavarma, and Kritoja. Arjuna Kritaviryasya Saptadvipeshvaro Bhavat Datatreyadharir Angsat Prapta Yoga Mahaguna. Text 24. The son of Kritavirya was Arjuna. He, Kritavir Arjuna, became the emperor of the entire world, consisting of 7 islands, and received mystic power from Dattatreya, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he obtained the mystic perfections known as Ashtasiddhi. Text 25. Nanunam Kartaviryasya gatim yasyanti partiva Yagyadana-tapo yogai shrutavirya dayadivi. Translation: no other king in this world could equal Kritavir Arjuna in sacrifices, charity, austerity, mystic power, education, strength, or mercy. Text 26. Panchashiti sahasrani hyavyahata balasama Anastavita smarano bubuje kshaya sadvasu. Translation: for 85,000 years, Kartavirya Arjuna continuously enjoyed material opulences with full bodily strength and unimpaired memory. In other words, he enjoyed inexhaustible material opulences with his 6 senses. Tasya putro sahasreshu panchai virdo vidita mride Jayadvaja surasena vrishabho matur urjita. Translation: one of the 1,000 sons of Kartavir Arjuna, only 5 remained alive after the fight with Parashuram. Their names were Jayadvaj, Surasena, Vrishabha, Madhu, and Urjita. Text 28. Jayadvajat talad janghas tasya putra shatam tvabhut kshatram yat talajan ghakyam aurva tejo pasamhritam. Jayadvaj had a son named Talajanga, who had 100 sons. All the Kshatriyas in that dynasty, known as Talanjanga, were annihilated by the great power received by Maharaj Sagar from Aurva Rishi. Text 29. Tesham dyeshto viti hoto vrishni putro mohod smrita tasya putra shatam tvasid vrishni jyeshtam yata kulam. Translation: of the sons of Talanjanga, Vitihotra was the eldest. The son of Vitihotra named Madhu had a celebrated son named Vrishni. Madhu had 100 sons, of whom Vrishni was the eldest. The dynasties known as Yadava, Madhava, and Vrishni had their origin from Yadu, Madhu, and Vrishni. Today's text 30 through 31. Please chant responsively. Madhava Vrishnayo Rajan Yadavascheti samjitiha Yaduputrasya chakroshto Putro vrijin vamstata. Madhava Vrishnayo Rajan Yadavascheti samgita Yadoputrasya chakroshto Putro vrijin vamstata. Madhava Vrishnayo Rajan Yadavascheti samgitaha Yadoputrasya chakroshto Putro vriji navamstata. And there's some additional Sanskrit here for the next text. Svahito tav sadgurvai tasya chitra tatastata shasha bindur mahayogi mahabhago mahanabhut chaturdasha maharatnas chakravatya parajitaha. And we'll do the word for word for these. Madhava, the dynasty beginning from Madhu. Vrishnaya, the dynasty beginning from Vrishni. Rajan, O king, Maharaj Parikshit. Yadava, the dynasty beginning from Yadu. Cha, and. Iti, thus. Samgita, are so called because of those different persons. Yadu putrasya, of the son of Yadu. Cha, also. Kroshto, of Kroshta. Putra, the son. Vrijinavan, his name was Vrijinavan. Tata, from him. Vrijinavan. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: O Maharaj Parikshit, because Yadu, Madhu, and Vrishni each inaugurated a dynasty, their dynasties are known as Yadava, Madhava, and Vrishni. The son of Yadu was named Kroshta. The son of Yadu named Kroshta had a son named Vrijinavan. The son of Vrijinavan was Svahita. The son of Svahita, Visvadgu. The son of Visvadgu, Chitrarata. And the son of Chitrarata, Shashabhindu. The greatly fortunate Shashabhindu, who was a great mystic, possessed 14 opulences, and was the owner of 14 great jewels. Thus he became the emperor of the world. Purport: in the Markandeya Purana, the 14 kinds of great jewels are described as follows. 1. An elephant. 2. A horse. 3. A chariot. 4. A wife. 5. Arrows. 6. A reservoir of wealth. 7. A garland. 8. Valuable costumes. 9. Trees. 10. A spear. 11. A noose. 12. Jewels. 13. An umbrella. And 14. Regulative principles. To be the emperor, one must possess all 14 of these opulences. Shashabindu possessed them all. Umayanatimmirandasya ginanjana shalakaya chakshura militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam stapitam yena bhutale svayam rupa kadamayam dadati swapadantikam vansha kalpatarubhyascha Kripa sindhubheva chapatitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are continuing a very elaborate line of royal descendants. And as we've been explaining, this is leading up to the appearance of Sri Krishna. Prabhupada would say anything in relation to Krishna is also important for the devotee. The devotee doesn't disregard Arjuna because he's not Krishna. Because he's in relation with Krishna, therefore the devotee is very much concerned about Arjuna, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And here we're hearing a large description of the Mahabharata, sections of the Mahabharata being described. So, I'm just trying to recall, I was hearing a very nice point about the importance of the relation of the devotee. We have a tendency to try to go to Krishna directly, but it's because of the Lord's intimate devotees that one becomes dear to him. One cannot approach Krishna directly. So therefore these descriptions are very important, and they help provide a contextual understanding of Krishna's appearance, janma karma, chame divyam, his divine transcendental activities. So although we may not ever know many of these personalities, besides their name, we may not have much detail. For example, Shashabindu, I could hardly find anything about Emperor Shashabindu. It's mentioned in the purport here that he's possessing these 14 different types of opulences. This is also quite an interesting list. Generally, one would think as an emperor of the whole world, one would possess maybe more than just an elephant, a horse, a chariot, a wife. And we'll find out that Shashabindu Maharaj, I think this is the bare minimum to be the emperor, because quite remarkably in the next text we'll find out he didn't have just one wife, but he had 10,000 wives. And does anyone know how many sons he had? He had 1 lakh sons by each of his wives. 1 lakh means 100,000. So 100,000 times 10,000 sons he had. This is inconceivable. So 10,000 lakhs, 10 million. So 10 million children. Yeah, that's pretty good. So it's a little bit bewildering actually when we hear these descriptions that only so many millennia ago people were having 10 million children, 10,000 wives. Certainly abundance of chariots, horses, a reservoir of wealth. So if we see this list multiplied by 10,000, then it seems more suitable. A reservoir of wealth, maybe he had 10,000 reservoirs of wealth, more than 1 garland, jewels, etc. So there's not that much, Prabhupada is not elaborating much in more depth than this, besides saying that Shashabindu possessed them all. So what thought I was having was that in comparison to this, when we read Mahabharata, we hear about these extraordinary lives, the great adventures, and the amazing qualities, the conduct, the morality of personalities in the Mahabharata, like the Pandavas. Some of this description of the 5 Pandavas is so astounding that it's inspired an entire subcontinent for millennium. Just these few individuals that have performed these activities, it continually captures the hearts and minds of conditioned souls, because they can act in ways that are so much beyond, yet ideal. They simultaneously set an example and do things that are beyond our scope. So as Kali Yuga, what is our comparison? What is our relation to someone like Arjuna or King Yudhishthira? It's quite humbling. It's quite belittling. It's quite embarrassing, actually, when I think about the issues that we have to go to and the issues that they had to go through. If we may be struggling to wake up and take care of our one body, or if we have a family, and hearing about an emperor of the entire planet. And the Mahabharata is just filled with these incredible descriptions of virtuous, and there's intrigue, there's romance, mystery, all the things that we're looking for in a pure form, because it's in relation to Bhagavan. So I was thinking we could take a brief look at this description of Kartavir Arjuna, who was the father of Arjuna, the grandfather of Arjuna, actually. And he had a very interesting life story that we may recall from earlier in this canto, in the 9th canto. There was a description given, and his relation with Jamadagni, the father of Parashuram. It's very instructive. So let me just review that. Does anyone recall that description? It had to do with a kamandanu, a wish-fulfilling cow. Basically, Jamadagni, the father of Parashuram, and his wife Renuka. And one time Renuka happened to see some Gandharvas or Apsaras bathing, and she subtly desired to be in some type of situation like that. But Jamadagni was so strict that he ordered Parashuram, you have to kill her. That was a great test, because this was a very minor offense. And so Parashuram, who's a Shaktivesh avatar, his pastimes are also quite extraordinary, if we want to describe the comparison between conditioned souls, Shaktivesh avatars. So he was very skeptical to kill his mother. That is a great offense. The mother is even more worshipable than the father, 100 times more worshipable than the father, according to Vedic culture. So he didn't want to do it, but he was very intelligent, so he knew that if he did that, his father would be so pleased with him that he would offer him a benediction in which he would ask for the life of his mother and his other siblings who declined to do that. So that was also a test that was given. Anyway, his father had one wish-fulfilling cow. We hear about these in the spiritual world. So he was living simply in his ashram, yet he was able to provide when the great emperor Kartavir Arjuna came with all his thousands of chariots and soldiers. This simple sage accommodated all of them very exceptionally with preparations of ghee, even though he was just more or less a hermit in his ashram, and it was on account of this heavenly cow. But we hear that, unfortunately, and very instructively, Kartavir Arjuna, at that time, he was infected by, Prabhupada says, he was puffed up by his extreme opulences. This is from the 9th canto, the 15th chapter. Shukadeva Goswami said, the best of Kshatriyas, Kartavir Arjuna, the king of the Hayas, received 1,000 arms by worshipping Dattatreya, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. He also became undefeatable by enemies and received unobstructed sensory power, beauty, influence, strength, fame, and mystic power, by which to achieve all the perfections of yoga. So he had this yoga siddhi. Thus, having become fully opulent, he roamed all over the universe without opposition, just like the wind. And then he comes across the ashram of Jamadagni. Kartavir Arjuna had no business going to the residence of Jamadagni, but because he was puffed up by his extraordinary power, he went there and offended Parashuram. This was a prelude to his being killed by Parashuram for his offensive act. So he saw this is it a Kamandalu or Kamadhenu? Kamadhenu. And he desired to have that, and because he had so much opulence, he was practically invincible. He stole the cow. And when Lord Parashuram heard about that, his anger flared, and he immediately went and destroyed all of the many Akshini's divisions of soldiers of Kartavir Arjuna and Kartavir Arjuna. And he killed all of them, and then ultimately he killed the great emperor himself, and he returned the cow. And Parashuram then, out of rage from all of the irreligious Kshatriyas, he annihilated them 21 times. So the lesson from here is that Jamadagni was able to receive all the king's followers and feed them sumptuously. The king was astonished at how opulent Jamadagni was because of possessing only one cow, and therefore he became envious of the great sage. This was the beginning of his offense. Parashuram, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Kartavya-Arjuna because he was too proud. One may possess unusual opulence in this material world, but if one becomes puffed up and acts whimsically, he will be punished by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a lesson to learn from this history, in which Parashuram became angry at Kartavya-Arjuna and killed him and rid the entire world of Chachas 21 times. So again, these activities, actually even Parashuram in his virya, chivalrous rasa, that's an opulence of Krishna that we may not be so attracted to, this butchering of millions of people, but it's an actual opulence of power to be employed in irreligion. That's one of the reasons that Krishna descends, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadishram, to destroy the irreligious. So these are opulences of Parashuram, and we see later in this dynasty of Kartavya-Arjuna, Shashabindu Maharaj, who possessed these different opulences. Now, for me personally, it was a little difficult to try to come up with something very meaningful in relation to these opulences. I'm not an emperor. I don't think I have any of these things. I don't have an elephant, a horse, or a chariot, wife, arrows, reservoir of wealth, very much. I have a garland, but I don't have a noose or an umbrella. But the point I was going to try to get at is that in our situation, compared to these great kings, it's very insignificant. It's very humbling. But in this age, there is such mercy that we can actually become not an emperor in the material sense, but we can achieve the Lord's mercy. So the true emperor is Krishna. He's the Jagat Guru. And in this age, as Gaur Purnim festival is approaching, I was inspired to speak a little bit about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda in anticipation to just, as we move toward that, it's nice to keep that in mind, kind of. So I might describe that in some of my talks, because I think it's important to bear that in mind. It helps put everything in perspective and relate actually what we're hearing to the relevance in our day-to-day lives. So what was actually quite fascinating is that these different opulences that are possessed by the emperor of the world, these are actually symbols that we find very prominently on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Srimati Radharani, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Lord Nityananda in Advaita Acharya. These are described as auspicious markings. And from our point of view, as I was saying, we have hope in mercy and taking that humble position that we're not so great. We don't have very much opulences. But Prabhupada always instructed that we approach the Lord beginning with his lotus feet. And that is the way we meditate actually on the Lord. And so these different symbols on the Lord's lotus feet, they have very deep meditations and symbolism for the sadhaka. So we'll read a little bit about the lotus feet of the Lord and find a lot of similarities here, and specifically in relation to Lord Chaitanya's most merciful descent. A slight mentioning of the glories of the lotus feet of their lordships, Sri Sri Nityananda Gauranga, removes the thirst for everything else. They are expert in destroying the calamities of everyone who meditate on them and bestow all good fortune, one being highly astonished on seeing their beauty, which gladdens all the senses. Their touch removes all miseries of fatigue and awards infinite happiness. May these lotus feet of their lordships, Sri Sri Nityananda Gauranga, fulfill all my desires. So, Srila Narottam Das, we recently celebrated his appearance day. He has also prayed, anyone who accepts the two lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu as one's only treasure and wealth in life becomes qualified to understand the essence of the pure mellows of devotional service to the Lord. So this is really our only hope, is to get this mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we've already celebrated Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Now the Lord has lotus feet and lotus hands also. We would find when Krishna was in Vrindavan, the imprints of his lotus feet would leave marks upon the soft soil of Vrindavan. And all of the residents of Vrindavan, they would never want to walk over those footprints. They were sacred. They were a decoration of the land of Vrindavan. And whenever they would see them, they would crowd around and take darshan. And on account of that, there was so much prosperity from the earth, it's saying, because the lotus feet of Krishna were always decorating her. The beauty and opulence of the world can be enhanced by the grace of the Lord. When Lord Sri Krishna was present on this earth, the impressions of the special signs of his feet were stamped on the dust. And as a result of this specific grace, the whole earth was made as perfect as possible. The soles of the Lord's lotus feet are marked with conch shell, disc, club, and lotus, and also by flag and thunderbolt. When Krishna walks on this earth or in the heavenly planets, these marks are visible wherever he goes. Vrindavan Dham is a transcendental place because of Krishna's walking on this land frequently. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were fortunate to see the marks here and there. And we remember when Akrura came to take Krishna, the first thing he saw was the lotus footprints. He fell down and began to groan. These marks are visible to devotees who receive the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in terms of the specifics now, this is quite a fascinating study. I encourage anyone who is interested to research this and become familiar with these different markings on the lotus feet of the Lord and their symbolic meanings. So, first of all, one of the mentioning here was an elephant and a horse. The emperor is in possession of that. We find these on the lotus, Lord Gauranga's lotus left hand. They're such symbols. Then there is also an arrows. The emperor possesses arrows. These are present on Lord Nityananda's feet and hands. Also there are trees, ropes, and I'll read a little description here. Specifically mentioned was a chariot. Does anyone know which personality of Godhead possesses a chariot as one of their symbols? That could be. But generally we see a very prominent chariot on the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. This mark symbolizes the universe as a chariot. It's also on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. And the lotus feet of their lordships, Sri Sri Nityananda Gauranga, show in which direction for all souls to travel. It further indicates that Lord Gauranga is so merciful to his devotees that he even becomes the chariot driver for them, just as Krishna. It also shows that the supreme goal may be easily attained, just as there is no trouble when one rides on a chariot to visit the forest. Whoever sits on the chariot of their feet emerges victorious in the battle with Maya, or the illusory energy. Okay, then we had, we mentioned the elephant. There is flower garland is also there. Specifically, it's mentioned gems. These are called the Chaturdasha Ratna Simha. Lord Chaitanya's Gaura Arti is taking place in a beautiful jeweled throne, as well as Krishna. So there's certain jewel markings also. The jeweled bangle. This mark, unique to Gauranga's feet, indicates that his feet are always present on the hands of devotees who are massaging his feet after his Sankirtan dancing pastimes, just as a bracelet always accompanies the hand. And then there was a mention of a wife. Now there's not actually a marking for wife on the Lord's lotus hands or feet. But there is a lotus which symbolizes the goddess of fortune. So if I can make that case, that she is the wife of Krishna. The lotus symbol, this mark increases greed for nectar in the minds of the bee-like devotees who meditate on the lotus feet of their lordships, Sri Sri Nityananda, Sri Gauranga. Furthermore, this mark on Gauranga's foot refers to the services of his devotees. The lotus also signifies that just as lotus grows out of water, similarly those whose eyes swell with tears upon chanting Nityananda and Gauranga mantras receive the highest benefit. This mark also shows that the goddess of fortune, Sri Lakshmi Devi, always resides at their feet, rendering humble service. It reveals that just as a lotus blooms by day and contracts by night, similarly those who remain steeped in meditation on the lotus feet and holy names of their lordships, Sri Sri Nityananda Gauranga, always feel the blossoming unfoldment of brilliant spiritual ecstasies that dispel the darkness of ignorance. This mark also indicates just as bees live inside lotus flowers, similarly the minds of Gauranga Bhaktas always reside in the nectar of their lotus feet. The lotus feet and holy names of their lordship Sri Sri Nityananda and Gauranga are the supreme abode of happiness. In his eternal service to their feet, he holds the 4 weapons. That's referring to Lord Vishnu. So these may sound very elevated meditations, but it's helpful to understand what is the mood of the devotee who's actually achieved the mercy of the Lord. We have to understand, at least appreciate, that very powerful position of the devotee and how his consciousness is actually completely enthralled. One of the Lord's qualities is that ever fresh. That is the name of one of our devotees in this community. I forget. His name means new, Naveen. Naveen, fresh, new, ever fresh. So similarly, these meditations on Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, actually they never get old, they never get hackneyed. And that is the nature of spiritual substance. So I'll just do a few more and then see if anyone wants to discuss. As again I mentioned, it was difficult for me to come up with too much relation to a lot of these 14 gems of the Emperor of the world. Now there's also a spear and an umbrella in regulative principles. So I'll just share what those indicate also. It's quite interesting. They're very similar. The markings. The spear. This mark assures those who wish to have the miserable bonds of the mundane sphere cut, and who take shelter of the lotus feet of their lordship, Sri Sri Nityananda Gauranga, immediately slash all entanglements and difficulties. It also indicates that they are Shaktiman, the natural possessors of all divine potencies, whereas their servants are not endowed with separate independent power, but are completely dependent on them. And also the emperor carries an umbrella, chhatra, and on the lotus feet we find this mark proves that those who take shelter of the lotus feet of their lordship, Sri Sri Nityananda Gauranga, are shielded from the incessant rainfall of material miseries. Furthermore, this mark on Lord Gauranga's feet indicates that his feet provide relief to his devotees from the scorching heat in his separation. It also refers to Gauranga in his form of Krishna, lifting Govardhan hill up like an umbrella to protect Braja from the devastating rainfall caused by the anger of Indra. It also denotes that those who sit in the shade of their feet become exalted, just like Maharajas, great kings, who usually have umbrellas held over their heads. And the last one, actually quite interesting, was mentioned, regulative principles. Prabhupada was mentioning that the emperor must possess regulative principles. That is undoubtedly important for the proper maintenance of an empire. And the king must embody that teach his subjects that. And that we see as a staple of the Vedic governmental system. Unfortunately, we can't say that, well, it's an interesting comparison, but our modern leaders, we could say more or less the President of the United States, in one sense, he's like a Kali Yuga emperor of the world. This country is actually the most powerful country in the world. So he is more or less the emperor of the world. So if we compare the qualities of these great kings, Shashabindu and Kritavirya Arjuna, to Donald Trump, we can just make an analysis of how fast Kali Yuga is progressing. It's quite shocking. He is the emperor of the world. So regulative principles, however, is essential, and while it's not very prominent in our society, there is something called an ankush, which is an elephant goad, which symbolizes correctment, chastisement, or correction. This mark indicates that meditation on the lotus feet of their lordship, Shri Shri Nityananda Gauranga, brings the elephants of their devotees' minds under control and keeps them on the right path. It also shows that those who thus stay on the path toward their feet and the holy names become superior among men, just as one riding on top of an elephant travels far above the rest. This mark, when on Gauranga's foot, indicates that even though Krishna's... Okay, yeah, that goes into a different description that I don't think we have time for it. So, in conclusion, this was a brief description on a little bit of Mahabharata and encouragement to look towards the coming season of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's merciful incarnation with great anticipation. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your class. First, I would like to say it's my dear Leela's birthday today, so I'd like to say happy birthday. Me and Ratar was having a conversation with her months ago.
Who?
Irina, my dear Leela, her new name. So she said she might try to come here today, but I guess she didn't make it, so just happy birthday to her. And I'll try to relate this point to your class yesterday, but it was a question I asked twice the past couple of days, and I'm not an eloquent speaker, so I'll do my best to... I'm not Jaya, my brother. I'm the cheap knockoff. I'm a writer. I can't speak eloquently, so I'll do my best. The one point that was made yesterday by Subal, which I agree with and also disagree with, was that the point was made at the end of the class, and this is the general answer, generally speaking, is that we should worry about our own faults. And of course, that's natural, but I will also disagree with that because Narada Muni, he told Dhruva Maharaj, one should try to uplift those who are inferior to oneself, not in an arrogant way, but somebody who says, can you give me some advice? Can you offer me some constructive criticism? Can you find out my faults? And naturally, if someone goes to the doctor, they say, can you fix my disease? The doctor won't say, oh, we should just worry about our own faults. Nor did Prabhupada, his disciples went up to them and say, Prabhupada, can you give me some criticism? And Prabhupada never said, no, I'm just going to worry about my own faults, you worry about yours. So that's natural. So when we speak of Bhagavatam, it's not that we're trying to fault find with anyone, but we're trying to how to improve our own faults. Otherwise, it can't be progressive. Everyone says, I'm just worried about myself, you worry about yourself, period. Nothing can be progressive. So one of the questions that was mentioned by that devotee, Michael, the massage therapist, essentially, and I'll try to relate it to this class, is that he said, how can one... if one is trying to get initiation, should he focus on the Shitsha? How can one associate with the Diksha Guru who's always traveling? How can I make the Guru Diksha see me? There's so many people up for initiation. Should I just focus on my relationship with Shitsha Guru? And so my understanding, based on the one pastime I appreciate in this regard, was Ranti Dev. it's not that it's easy to put on a show when the guru is here. And that was the principle of that pastime. There's so many other pastimes like Keshava Kashmiri. But Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva disguise themselves because anyone can put on a show, you know, when the spiritual master or the teacher is here. That's easy. But they wanted to test to see how Ranti Dev, was he truly tender or was he truly pretender? Anyone can put on a show. That's the whole principle. And one of the other points I would like to mention, just briefly mention, you could expand on it, verifying this point, is that in a Leelamrita, Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita, one female devotee, I can't reference this, but the second one I can reference. One female devotee, she said she wanted to be more closer to Prabhupada. And then she gained the realization on her own or by some mercy, you know, without the external apparent need of anyone's help. She gained the realization that being close to Prabhupada isn't based on his vapu when he's present, but on his vani when he isn't present by following his instructions. And Prabhupada said that many times, because the spiritual master in conclusion is not always going to be present before us. So the most important thing is to how do we act when they're not present? That's the most important thing. And so I can't verify that because I don't remember where it was, but there was one pastime in the Srila Prabhupada, a similar pastime where this is in chapter 34 of Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. And it describes a similar incident with a temple president of Paris. Now the devotees back then had the Rigved system. You know, they got initiated from their spiritual master through another devotee. From Prabhupada through another devotee. So he was meeting Prabhupada for the first time, the temple president. And so he was late for whatever reason for Prabhupada's lecture. For whatever reason, he was late. And he came in with another devotee. The other devotee he came with, his assistant, sat in the back. Now this temple president, he bypassed everyone, walked all the way up to the front while Prabhupada was giving a lecture and sat directly next to Prabhupada. And he said at that moment, Prabhupada gave me my first instruction. He said he didn't even look at me. So although he was close to Prabhupada in physical proximity, he was furthest away from Prabhupada in spiritual proximity. So Prabhupada's like, you know, if you're going to act like this while I'm present, then what are you going to do to the devotees when they're not present? So the most important thing is that the most important fault we have is putting ourselves above others, just like Katsavi Arjuna. I'll relate this to the pastime. His fault is that he wanted to put himself above Lord Parashuram's father, Jalban Agni, because he was envious. Ramachandra Khan wanted to put himself above Haridasa Kaur because he was envious. So that's our main disease, is that we want to put ourselves above others, either due to pride or envy. So Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, they wanted to test whether Ranti Dev, was he really putting himself below others or above others? So you have to do it in secret. You know, Krishna Yadi Kripa Kare Konya Bhagavane Guru Ansayami Rupe Shikoya Pane. The guru is always disguised within everyone's heart, so anyone could do anything while we're present. And also Lord Nrsimhadev, he tells Prahlad, Yatra Yatra Chama Bhata Prashanta Samadarshinaha Sadhava Samoducharas Te Punyanti Apikikaraha. He says that whenever and wherever there are PhDs, pretty humble devotees like Ranti Dev, who are prashants, peaceful, Samadarshina, see with equal spiritual vision, and who are sadhava, decorated with all tender qualities and not pretender qualities, that person can purify any sinful person, place, things, or circumstance. And that's described in the Ranti Dev pastime, is because he was truly humble that he was able to purify himself and others. On the other hand, if we're not truly humble, we can't even purify ourselves. What to speak of others? We won't develop this taste. So that's the most important thing. Not that we avoid, you know, speaking about our faults. We speak about other faults to the degree they empower us to speak about their faults. Can you please give me some? Because that's the reality, is that people value our advice. We're all, to a certain degree, at the Sishagurus. People say, give me your advice. That's why it's the most important thing to read these scriptures, because Rupa Goswami says the most five potent forms of devotional service is Namakirtan, Sadhu Sangha, Namakirtan, Bhagavad Shrava, Mathura Vashri Mutir Shradaya Sevan. It doesn't end at Sadhu Sangha and Namakirtan. It also includes,
it's 8:30 now.
It also includes Bhagavad Shrava. Here, otherwise, if we don't devote it to Bhagavad Shrava, then association with devotees is so superficial, and then we're just finding faults with each other. And so that's the most important thing, so that I like to mention. So, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Nobody had any questions, so
yeah, no,
I waited for everyone to have a question. Nobody did, so I took up the time. So Hare Krishna. I disagree, so Hare Krishna.
I don't mind. Thank you for that. Thank you for that class. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.